This video just provides a few more details on my first ever model railroad layout, Black Dog Mine. So quite random really. Still got more work to do on the tunnel portals, making them look a bit more authentic. So my random trees. This hole is like an artist's impression look, if you like, into one of the haulage tunnels of the mine, the fictitious mine. And of course there'd be side drifts leading off from the main haulage tunnel as they tried to chase a vein that they thought was going to be worth pursuing. It's the shower unit up there, mining shower unit. Very strange location up on a hillside, but you see there's some steps there. They can walk up to get to it. Up here I'm going to put a small cemetery with some gravestones, because obviously mining was a dangerous occupation. Coal more so, but hard rock mining had a massive number of fatal accidents over a period of, let's say, 100 years, from sort of mid 1800s onwards, through stope collapses, explosions, just fatal injuries with equipment, blasting of course, use of dynamite, blasting caps and fuse, all of those issues. I've got a few safety notices in various places, and of course the mining owners were very keen to take as much money as they could from the miners, so there'd be lots of opportunities to remind them that their company store here sold all sorts of things for cough cures and to heal various sicknesses and diseases that they might likely have. Still got to fit some door catches, as it were, to the loco shed doors. By the way, I've built in some isolated sections on the track. Move down towards my switch unit here. There's 11 points with their own switches, but then there's 6 more above them, and they're linked to areas where I can isolate part of the track work. So for example here, if locos go into the shed, they'll have passed a cut I've made with a Dremel drill in the track, and then that frees up the track work here for other locos to approach, etc. And leaving them in their shed. The same applies in a few other places too. For example, over here with the Kitwood Hills loco shelter, just near the small turntable. So there's another one there. There's a few scattered around. And of course on the top mining level here, which I've sort of called Power District C, the track that overran right in past that hole we looked at earlier, and then down further into the hillside here. So what I've done is to again cut the track with a Dremel cut-off disc, and then I've inserted some diodes. And I'm sure a good number of you know this already, but the diode will only allow current to flow in one direction. So you can drive the locomotive in. Once it passes the break in the track, it will then stop until the polarity is reversed, and you reverse the loco out. So it just reduces the chance of anything getting stuck in there, or indeed stuck in there, although that's a bit easier to access. A good number of the buildings can be removed, so this ore bin, or tipple if you like, that sits in 4 plastic tubes, and it's got its own power connector for its lighting. So this would, in fictitious terms, have actually a conveyor here. So as the ore carts came out loaded up with ore that they'd blasted, etc., that could be loaded up onto the excavator and then tipped over, and then there are 2 chutes which you can't really see here, but they are Kitwood Hill chutes, and as with all their products, I can highly recommend them. So they would transfer the ore into waiting wagons, and deep-sided gondolas, etc. for onward transportation. So as far as your imagination is concerned, this is all obviously narrow gauge, but in my fictitious world, this narrow gauge track here that runs through under the tunnel does connect up to a mainline network for onward transportation of the mined rock, where we go off to stamp mills and so on, as well as bringing in supplies that they would need. Obviously coal for the steam locos and oil, timber materials, dynamite, etc. All the points are operated by Pico, I call clunk point motors. I know they're not the quietest, but I'm happy with it, so that makes it okay, doesn't it? Over here we've got an old abandoned mine workings with the infamous signs you so often see in America, especially southwest USA. You know, the keep out, stay alive signs. And there's a hobo there just hanging around hoping he can maybe pick up some cash work. There's also a small ball mill just under the top roof there. Over the back we've got some more hobos there. They're huddled around a flickering fire I've installed. I wanted quite a lot to go on with this, so there's a lot of lighting. And just switch on now. And you see the turntable operates. I don't know how much you can see from here, but there we are. So that would work fine for a small loco, like perhaps the 040 Porter or a Davenport Gas Mechanical. So a few water towers. Obviously the water windmill brings in a good source of water where they just store it up as they need it for all sorts of things, not just for locomotive use. Talking about random things, over here we've got an old carbide lamp. It's a genuine American carbide lamp. They'd put a piece of carbide in there, and then water would be dripped onto that, and then they'd set a light to it. So it's like an acetylene flame, which just adds a bit of character. Over here we've got a Prince Albert tobacco tin. These were often used to store mine papers. So somebody was working or had purchased a mine claim, they put their claim papers in there to warn anybody not to enter their property. So that usually banged on with a nail into a post, usually a wooden post of some sort. The water windmill, that's got a geared motor I bought from China, very low cost, but even then it was too fast, so I put an additional resistor in to reduce the speed of that. What else to tell you? The outer loop with all the track work leading right up into the loco shed, round behind the hillside. There's more track than you realise just glancing at this, because again behind the hillside there's a passing loop and also a connection through this tunnel over there to bring it into the more tighter radius mine workings. That's meant to be like a backup generator, although as this fictitious mine developed and prospered, they were able to get a power pole connection run right on out to the mine. A few noises you can hear in the background. We've got my Heisler there, and here we've got my Hackwood Miniatures dress-up kit converted shay.